The rain hammered against my workshop window like an angry ex-wife demanding alimony. I sat there at 2:47 a.m., nursing my third cup of coffee and wondering when exactly my life had turned into a bad country song. The kind where the dog dies, the truck breaks down, and your woman's been stepping out with some smooth-talking city boy who probably uses more hair product than a Vegas showgirl. My name's Ethan Blake, and I used to be somebody. Army intelligence, then private security consulting. Now I'm just another middle-aged guy in upstate New York, watching the rain and pretending I don't know where my wife spends her evenings. The garage door rumbled open. Carla's BMW purred into the driveway, headlights cutting through the darkness like accusations. I glanced at my watch again. 2:45. Her marketing strategy meeting must have run really, really late. I heard her heels clicking on the concrete, unsteady. The side door creaked open. "Didn't expect you up, honey," she said, voice slightly slurred. Her lipstick was smudged, and her usually perfect blonde hair looked like she'd been running her fingers through it, or someone else had. I set down my coffee mug with deliberate care. "Couldn't sleep. Your perfume's changed." She froze in the doorway, one hand still on the handle. "What do you mean?" "That's not the Chanel I bought you for Christmas. This smells more masculine, expensive cologne mixed with cheap desperation." Carla's face went through several expressions before settling on indignant. "You're being paranoid, Ethan. I was at the office until 11. Then Melissa and I grabbed drinks to discuss the Morrison account." "Melissa, huh?" I stood up slowly, my knees creaking like old floorboards. Funny thing about Melissa. She posted on Facebook 2 hours ago. She was home watching Netflix with her husband, something about a romantic comedy marathon. The color drained from Carla's face, but she recovered quickly. She always was good at thinking on her feet. It's what made her such a successful marketing executive, and apparently such a successful liar. "You're checking up on me now? Stalking my friends on social media? Just happened to see it. You know how these things pop up in your feed." She stepped into the workshop, closing the door behind her. The smell hit me stronger now. Definitely cologne, definitely not mine. Something expensive and cloying, the kind of scent worn by men who think money can buy class. "We need to talk," she said, but her tone suggested she thought we needed to do anything but talk. "About what? Your new marketing strategies? Or should we discuss your performance reviews?" Carla's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, honey. Just wondering if you're getting the kind of hands-on guidance you need to advance your career." She turned and walked toward the house without another word. I listened to her heels clicking across the kitchen floor, up the stairs, and into our bedroom. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. I sat back down and picked up my coffee. It had gone cold, but I drank it anyway. In the Army, you learn to appreciate whatever you can get, even when it tastes like disappointment and broken promises. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, my marriage was drowning, and I was the only one who seemed to notice we were going under. The next morning arrived gray and miserable, matching my mood perfectly. Carla had already left for work by the time I dragged myself upstairs. Her coffee mug sat in the sink, lipstick stain on the rim like a scarlet letter. I'd always found that lipstick stain oddly intimate, a small daily reminder of the woman I'd married. Now it just looked like evidence. I made fresh coffee and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from potential clients, 2 emails about security consultations, and 1 text from my neighbor, Mrs. Granger. Saw Carla come home late again. "You okay, dear?" Eleanor Granger was 73 years old and had lived next door for 40 years. She knew everything that happened on Maple Street, usually before it happened. Her late husband had been a cop, and she'd inherited his suspicious nature along with his pension. I texted back, "Fine. Thanks for asking." Her response came immediately, "Liar. Come over for lunch. I made too much soup." Mrs. Granger's too much soup was code for We need to talk. I'd learned her language over the past 8 years of living next door. She was the closest thing I had to family in this town, since Carla's relatives had made it clear from day one that I wasn't good enough for their precious princess. I spent the morning in my office downtown, a cramped second-floor space above Murphy's Deli. The building was older than dirt, but the rent was cheap and the location was convenient. Most of my work involved consulting for small businesses on security systems and employee background checks. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and kept me busy. Around noon, I locked up and drove home. Mrs. Granger was waiting on her front porch, wearing a flowered house dress and a knowing expression. "Chicken noodle," she announced as I walked up her steps, "and don't tell me you're not hungry. You look like you haven't eaten in days." Her kitchen smelled like comfort and better times. We sat at her small table, surrounded by photographs of her late husband and various neighborhood children she'd watched grow up over the decades. "So," she said, ladling soup into bowls, "want to tell me what's really going on?" "Nothing's going on, Eleanor." "Bull, I've been watching that woman come and go for months. She's up to something, and you know it." I ate my soup in silence, tasting childhood memories and maternal concern. Mrs. Granger waited patiently. She'd outlasted 5 decades of neighborhood secrets. She could wait me out. "I think she's having an affair," I finally said. "I know she is," Mrs. Granger replied matter-of-factly. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "What can I do? I don't have proof." She stood up and walked to her kitchen window, which offered a perfect view of my driveway. Proof is easy to come by if you know where to look. The hard part is deciding whether you really want to find it. After lunch, I went home and did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I searched through Carla's things. I started with her dresser, feeling like a criminal. Her jewelry box contained the usual suspects: earrings, necklaces, the wedding ring she claimed was too loose to wear to work. Underneath the velvet lining, I found a business card. Nathan Rourke, Regional Director, Morrison Marketing Solutions. Morrison Marketing, the account she'd mentioned last night. I kept searching. In her gym bag, tucked inside a zippered pocket, I found a second cell phone, a cheap prepaid model, the kind people buy when they don't want their activities traced. My hands shook as I powered it on. One voicemail message. I hit play. "Hey, beautiful, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. That thing you did with your—" I turned it off. The voice was smooth, confident, with just a hint of arrogance. Nathan Rourke, I presumed. Regional Director and homewrecker. I sat on the edge of our bed, holding the evidence of my wife's betrayal in my hands. 15 years of marriage, reduced to a cheap phone and a stranger's voice, describing intimate moments that should have been mine. The front door opened downstairs. Carla's voice called out, "Ethan? You home?" I slipped the phone back into her gym bag and walked downstairs, trying to look casual. "How was work?" I asked. "Busy. The Morrison account is really heating up." She kissed my cheek, and I caught that same cologne scent from last night. "I might have to work late again tonight. Big presentation tomorrow." "Another strategy session with Melissa?" "Actually, I'll be working directly with Nathan Rourke. He's the regional director. Very hands-on approach to client relations." "I'll bet he is," I thought. "Sounds important," I said aloud. "It could make my career, Ethan." "This is the break I've been waiting for." She went upstairs to change, humming softly to herself. I stood in the kitchen, listening to her moving around in our bedroom, and realized that my marriage was already over. I just hadn't been officially notified yet. My old army buddy Lenny Martinez called that evening while Carla was getting ready for another late night at the office. "Blake, you sound like hell," he said without preamble. Lenny had never been one for small talk. "Thanks for the pep talk. Seriously, what's eating you? And don't tell me it's nothing. I've known you too long." I glanced toward the stairs. Carla was in the shower, probably washing off the scent of another man before applying it again. "Can you meet me at the Rusty Nail in an hour?" "That bad, huh?" Yeah, I'll be there. The Rusty Nail was exactly what it sounded like. A dive bar on the wrong side of town where the beer was cold, the lights were dim, and nobody asked too many questions. Lenny was already there when I arrived, nursing a beer and playing with his phone. He worked in IT for the county, which meant he knew how to find things that people thought they'd hidden. "You look like somebody shot your dog," he said as I sat down. "Worse. I think my wife is cheating on me." Lenny set down his beer and gave me his full attention. "Think or no?" Found a second phone. Heard a voicemail from her new boss. Guy named Nathan Rourke. "Want me to look into him? Can you do that legally?" Lenny grinned. "Brother, everything I do is legal. Might not be ethical, but it's legal." We were interrupted by a commotion near the door. A group of people had just walked in, laughing loudly. I recognized the voice before I turned around. Carla stood near the entrance with 3 other people. One was Melissa, her supposed alibi from last night. The other 2 were men I didn't recognize, though one of them matched the smooth voice from the voicemail. Tall, athletic, expensive suit, even in a dive bar. The kind of guy who probably had his teeth professionally whitened. "Is that him?" Lenny asked quietly. "Yeah, that's Nathan Rourke." We watched as they found a table across the room. Carla was animated, touching Nathan's arm when she laughed, leaning in close when he spoke. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, something low-cut and expensive. "She's not even trying to hide it," Lenny observed. Nathan said something that made Carla throw her head back and laugh. Then he leaned over and whispered in her ear. Her face flushed, and she bit her lower lip in a way that I remembered from our early dating days. My phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Granger. "Your wife's got a new friend? Saw them at Murphy's Deli this afternoon?" Looked cozy. I showed the text to Lenny. He shook his head. "Man, she's not even being careful. It's like she wants to get caught. Or she thinks I'm too stupid to notice." We sat there for another 20 minutes, watching my wife flirt with her lover in public. Nathan kept checking his expensive watch and making comments that caused the whole table to laugh. At one point, he snapped his fingers at the waitress like she was a servant. "I've seen enough," I said, standing up. "Where are you going?" "Home." "To plan." "Plan what?" I looked back at Carla's table. She had her hand on Nathan's thigh now, completely oblivious to my presence. "My comeback tour." Lenny followed me outside. The parking lot was poorly lit, full of potholes and broken glass. "Ethan, whatever you're thinking, don't do anything stupid." "Stupid?" "Lenny, I've been stupid for months. Stupid would be continuing to pretend I don't know what's going on. Smart would be making sure they regret underestimating me." "What do you need?" I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Everything you can find on Nathan Rourke. Financial records, social media, parking tickets, everything. And I need it yesterday." "Consider it done." I drove home through empty streets, my mind already working through possibilities. In the Army, they taught us that the best defense is a good offense. Time to go on the attack. Carla came home at 2:15 a.m., reeking of cologne and alcohol. She stumbled upstairs and passed out on her side of the bed without saying a word. I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling and planning my wife's downfall. Lenny delivered the next morning. Nathan Rourke's life spread across my computer screen like a target-rich environment. 38 years old, divorced twice, lived in an expensive apartment complex downtown. He drove a leased BMW, belonged to an exclusive gym, and had a habit of posting his every move on social media. More interesting was his employment history. 3 jobs in 5 years, each departure preceded by rumors of inappropriate relationships with subordinates. Morrison Marketing had hired him 6 months ago, probably without checking references too carefully. His financial records told another story. Expensive tastes, mediocre income, and a tendency to live beyond his means. The kind of guy who needed to impress women because his personality wasn't doing the job. I printed everything and spread it across my desk like a battle plan. My phone rang. Carla, calling from work. Hi, honey. I'm going to be late again tonight. Nathan wants to review the Morrison presentation one more time. Of course he does. Will Melissa be there? A pause. No, just Nathan and me. We work better without distractions. I'm sure you do. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, sweetheart. Just hope you're getting everything you need from these private sessions. Another pause, longer this time. Ethan, are you feeling okay? You've been acting strange lately. Just tired. Working hard to keep up with the bills while you're advancing your career. We'll talk when I get home. Looking forward to it. I hung up and called Mrs. Granger. Eleanor, how do you feel about doing a little surveillance work? Honey, I've been surveilling this neighborhood since before you were born. What do you need? Pictures. Carla and her new friend. Think you can handle that? I've got a camera with a telephoto lens and 40 years of practice. When do you need them? Tonight. That afternoon, I drove to Nathan's gym. Elite Fitness, the kind of place where the membership costs more than most people's car payments. I sat in the parking lot and waited. At 4:30, Nathan emerged, gym bag over his shoulder, looking like he'd stepped out of a fitness magazine. He walked to his BMW with the confidence of a man who'd never been challenged in his life. I followed him home, keeping a safe distance. His apartment complex was all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed, "I'm successful," to anyone who'd listen. He parked in a reserved spot near the entrance. I made note of his routine, his timing, his habits. In intelligence work, information is power. The more you know about your target, the easier it becomes to predict their moves. My phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Granger. Package delivered. Check your email. I opened my laptop and found 3 high-resolution photographs. Carla and Nathan at Murphy's Deli, sharing a sandwich and looking into each other's eyes. Carla and Nathan outside Morrison Marketing, his hand on the small of her back. Carla and Nathan in the parking lot of a motel I recognized, the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour. The last photo made my stomach clench. My wife of 15 years, kissing another man with the passion she used to reserve for me. I forwarded the photos to a secure folder and began planning phase 2. Carla came home at midnight, makeup smeared and hair disheveled. She tried to sneak upstairs, but I was waiting in the living room. How was the presentation? I asked. She jumped, startled. God, Ethan, you scared me. What are you doing sitting in the dark? Thinking. About us. About our future. She sat down across from me, trying to look concerned. What about our future? Well, that depends. Are you planning to include me in it? What kind of question is that? The kind a man asks when his wife starts working late every night with her handsome new boss. Carla's face went through several expressions before settling on wounded innocence. Are you accusing me of something? Should I be? I can't believe you don't trust me. Trust is earned, Carla. And lately, you haven't been making deposits in that account. She stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. I'm working hard to build our future, and all you can do is make paranoid accusations. Our future? Or your future with Nathan Rourke? The name hit her like a physical blow. Her face went pale, then flushed red. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the man you've been sleeping with for the past 3 months, the man whose cologne you wear home every night, the man you think is going to rescue you from your boring life with your boring husband. Carla's mask finally slipped. The wounded innocence disappeared, replaced by cold calculation. You've been spying on me. I've been paying attention. There's a difference. You have no idea what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. Really? Because I've got pictures that suggest otherwise. Her face went white as she saw the images. Where did you get these? Does it matter? The question is, what are we going to do about it? She straightened her shoulders, and I saw a glimpse of the woman she'd become. Hard, selfish, calculating. "What do you want, Ethan?" "I want my wife back. But I don't think she exists anymore." "You're right. She doesn't." Carla walked toward the stairs, then turned back. "Nathan and I are in love. Real love, not this tired, boring existence we've been pretending is a marriage." "How romantic. Does he know about your student loans, your credit card debt, your mother's medical bills? He knows everything that matters." "And what about me? Do I get a say in any of this?" She smiled, and it was the cruelest expression I'd ever seen on her face. "You'll get what you deserve, Ethan." Which isn't much. She went upstairs, leaving me alone in the dark with the wreckage of my marriage and a growing desire for revenge. The next morning, I put my plan into motion. First stop, Nathan's gym. I'd timed it perfectly. He always arrived at 6 a.m. for his workout, parked in the same spot, followed the same routine. I waited until he was inside, then approached his BMW. A quick inspection revealed what I'd hoped for: expensive car, expensive alarm system, and expensive stupidity. He'd left his windows cracked for ventilation. I didn't damage anything. That would be illegal, and I was a law-abiding citizen. Instead, I simply let the air out of his tires. All 4 of them. Then I left a note under his windshield wiper. "Wrong parking spot, asshole." Phase 2 required Lenny's technical expertise. He met me at a coffee shop downtown, grinning like a kid with a new toy. "I've got everything you asked for," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "Financial records, employment history, social media passwords, the works. This guy is dumber than a box of rocks when it comes to digital security." "What about the other thing?" "Already done. His car alarm is now programmed to play 'It Wasn't Me' by Shaggy every time he starts the engine. Took me about 30 seconds to hack the system." I had to admire Lenny's sense of humor. "How long will it last?" "Until he pays a dealership to reprogram it. Should be good for at least a week of embarrassment." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Who the hell are you and what do you want?" Nathan had found my note. I texted back, "Just a concerned citizen. Every cheater gets what's coming." Phase 3 was more subtle. I'd discovered that Nathan had been forwarding confidential Morrison marketing files to his personal email account, probably to work on them at home, but technically a violation of company policy. I'd also found evidence that some of those files had been accessed from locations that didn't match his official schedule. I compiled everything into an anonymous package and sent it to Morrison Marketing's compliance department, along with a note. "Thought you should know about your regional director's security practices." Then I sat back and waited. Carla called me at noon, her voice tight with panic. "Ethan, did you do something to Nathan's car?" "Why would I do that?" "Someone let the air out of his tires and left a threatening note. Sounds like he made an enemy. Maybe he should be more careful about where he parks." "This isn't funny." "You're right. It's not funny at all." That evening, I drove to the Rusty Nail and waited. Sure enough, Carla and Nathan showed up around 9, but the atmosphere was different. They weren't laughing and touching like before. Nathan looked angry and paranoid, constantly checking his phone and scanning the room. I watched as he tried to start his BMW in the parking lot. Even through the closed windows of the bar, we could hear Shaggy's voice. "It wasn't me. She caught me on the counter." Nathan's face turned red as he fumbled with the radio, trying to turn off the music. Other customers started laughing and pointing. Someone pulled out their phone to record the scene. Carla looked mortified. She said something to Nathan, but he was too busy dealing with his musical car to pay attention. My phone rang. "Mrs. Granger, you should see the show outside Morrison Marketing," she said without preamble. "Your wife's boyfriend just got escorted out by security. Looked like he was carrying a box of personal items." "Really? That's unfortunate." Also saw your wife in the parking lot crying into her cell phone. Looked like she was having a bad day." Thanks for the update, Eleanor. Any time, dear. This is better than my soap operas. I drove home and waited. Carla arrived an hour later, her face streaked with mascara and her hands shaking. They fired him, she said without preamble. Who fired who? Morrison Marketing fired Nathan. They said he violated security protocols. That's terrible. How did they find out? She stared at me with red-rimmed eyes. You did this. I did what? I don't even work for Morrison Marketing. You're destroying everything. My career, my happiness, my future. Your future? What about our future? What about the 15 years I invested in this marriage? Those years are gone, Ethan. We can't get them back. You're right. We can't. But we can decide what happens next. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing her makeup even more. What do you want from me? I want you to understand something. I'm not the weak, boring man you think I am. I'm not going to roll over and let you destroy my life without consequences. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. There's a difference. Carla went upstairs without another word. I heard her on the phone, probably calling Nathan, probably trying to figure out how to salvage their affair. I poured myself a drink and sat in my workshop, listening to the rain and planning my next move. The game was just getting started. The next few days brought a steady stream of small victories. Nathan's unemployment became public knowledge when he posted a bitter rant on social media about workplace politics and jealous husbands. Carla's friends started asking uncomfortable questions about her relationship with her former boss. I helped the process along with strategic leaks of information. A photo of Nathan and Carla at the hourly motel found its way to the Morrison Marketing employee Facebook group. An anonymous tip to the local gossip blogger revealed Nathan's history of workplace affairs. Carla's reputation at work began to crumble. She'd been so focused on climbing the corporate ladder that she'd forgotten how quickly you could fall when people lost respect for you. But Nathan wasn't going down without a fight. He started calling the house, leaving increasingly angry voicemails. He accused me of harassment, stalking, and criminal mischief. He threatened to call the police, hire a lawyer, ruin my business. I saved every message, evidence for later. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I was working late in my office when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, unfamiliar footsteps. Nathan Rourke appeared in my doorway, his face flushed with anger and alcohol. He'd been drinking. I could smell it from across the room. We need to talk, he said, swaying slightly. I don't think we do. This is private property, and you're trespassing. Cut the legal bullshit. You've been screwing with my life, and it stops now. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my hands visible and my voice calm. I don't know what you're talking about. The hell you don't. The car, the job, the photos, all of it. You think you're some kind of mastermind, but you're just a pathetic loser who can't accept that his wife found someone better. Better? You got fired for incompetence and you're dating a married woman. That's your definition of better? Nathan stepped into the room, his hands clenched into fists. At least I'm not a washed-up ex-soldier playing security guard. Ex-soldier? Is that what Carla told you? Something in my tone made him pause. What? I opened my desk drawer slowly, keeping my movements deliberate and non-threatening. Inside was a folder containing my military records, my security clearances, and my consulting contracts. I wasn't just a soldier, Nathan. I was military intelligence, specialized in information warfare, psychological operations, and counterintelligence. The kind of training that teaches you how to destroy someone's life without leaving fingerprints. His face went pale. You're bluffing. Am I? Let me tell you what I know about you. Born in Albany, parents still live in the same house on Elm Street. Your father owns a small accounting firm. Your mother teaches elementary school. You've got a younger sister named Jennifer who lives in Boston with her husband and 2 kids. Nathan's eyes widened. I hadn't gotten that information from Lenny's research. I'd gotten it from Nathan's own social media posts, but he didn't need to know that. Your first wife divorced you for cheating. Your second wife divorced you for the same reason, plus financial irresponsibility. You've got $17,000 in credit card debt, your lease is up for renewal next month, and your unemployment benefits won't cover your lifestyle. How do you? I know because it's my job to know. And here's what else I know. You picked the wrong man's wife to sleep with. Nathan backed toward the door. You're crazy. No, I'm thorough and patient and very, very good at what I do. He turned and ran down the stairs. I heard his car start in the parking lot, the sound of Shaggy's voice echoing off the buildings as he drove away. I called Carla. Your boyfriend just paid me a visit, I said when she answered. What? Nathan? What did he want? To threaten me. To tell me to stop interfering with your relationship, to prove he's the alpha male. Oh God. Ethan, I'm sorry. He's been drinking. He's upset about losing his job. He's upset because he's finally realizing what he's up against. What do you mean? I mean your boyfriend thought he was stealing another man's wife. What he actually did was declare war on someone with the training and motivation to destroy him completely. Silence on the other end of the line. Carla, you have a choice to make. End this affair, come home, and we'll work on rebuilding our marriage. Or continue down this path and watch me dismantle both your lives piece by piece. You can't do this, Ethan. It's not legal. Everything I've done so far has been perfectly legal. Public records, social media posts, anonymous tips about actual policy violations. I haven't broken a single law. But you've ruined his life. He ruined his own life when he decided to sleep with my wife. I just helped the process along. She hung up on me. I sat in my empty office, listening to the sounds of the city settling into night. Traffic, sirens, the distant sound of a train whistle. The sounds of other people living their lives while mine fell apart. But for the first time in months, I felt like I was in control. 2 weeks later, I received the papers. Divorce proceedings, filed by Carla's new lawyer, a slick downtown firm that specialized in complex marital dissolution. The demands were breathtaking in their audacity: the house, both cars, half my business assets, and substantial alimony. The papers also included a restraining order request, claiming I'd been stalking and harassing her and Nathan. According to the filing, I was mentally unstable and potentially dangerous. I called my own lawyer, a gruff ex-prosecutor named Bill Morrison, who specialized in defending men in messy divorces. They're going for the throat, he said after reviewing the papers. Your wife's playing hardball. Can they get all this? Depends on what evidence they have of your alleged harassment. Do they have anything concrete? Nothing illegal. I've been careful. Good. But Ethan, you need to understand something. In family court, perception matters as much as evidence. If they can paint you as an unstable ex-soldier with anger issues, the judge might err on the side of caution. So, what do you recommend? Play it straight from here on out. No more games, no more pranks. Let me handle the legal side while you focus on documenting everything they've done wrong. I agreed, but privately, I had no intention of going quietly into the night. Carla and Nathan had made this personal. It was time to make it public. The hearing was scheduled for the following Friday at the county courthouse. I spent the week preparing, gathering evidence, and making final arrangements. Mrs. Granger stopped by the night before the hearing. You ready for tomorrow? She asked, settling into my kitchen chair with a cup of coffee. As ready as I can be. Good. Because I've got something for you. She pulled out an envelope thick with photographs. Been doing some surveillance work on your behalf. The photos were devastating. Nathan and Carla at various motels around the county. Nathan's car parked overnight at Carla's sister's house when she was supposed to be out of town. Carla leaving Nathan's apartment at 6 a.m. wearing the same clothes from the night before. Eleanor, you're a treasure. Just looking out for my neighbors. That woman never deserved you. The courthouse was packed the next morning. Family court was a depressing place under the best circumstances, filled with broken dreams and bitter recriminations. Today, it felt like a battlefield. Carla sat at the plaintiff's table with her lawyer, looking composed and professional in a conservative blue suit. Nathan sat behind her in the gallery, wearing his best attempt at respectability. My lawyer had warned me that Carla would try to paint me as unstable, so I'd dressed carefully. Dark suit, conservative tie, military bearing. I wanted to look like the responsible adult in the room. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s, who'd probably seen every variation of marital warfare. She reviewed the papers with the weary expression of someone who'd lost her faith in human nature years ago. "This is a hearing on the plaintiff's request for temporary orders," she began. "Mrs. Blake, you're seeking exclusive use of the marital home, spousal support, and a restraining order against your husband. Please present your case." Carla's lawyer stood up, a polished woman in an expensive suit. "Your Honor, my client has been the victim of an escalating campaign of harassment and intimidation by her estranged husband. Mr. Blake has stalked her, interfered with her employment, and made threats against her and her colleague, Mr. Rourke." The lawyer presented their evidence: Nathan's complaint about his tires, the anonymous tips to Morrison Marketing, the confrontation in my office. She painted a picture of a jealous, unstable ex-soldier who couldn't accept his wife's success. "Mr. Blake has used his military training to wage psychological warfare against my client," the lawyer concluded. "She fears for her safety and requests the court's protection." It was a good performance. Professional, convincing, and just plausible enough to be believable. Then it was my turn. Bill Morrison stood slowly, his rumpled appearance hiding a sharp legal mind. "Your Honor, the plaintiff's claims are not only false, they're projection. Mrs. Blake has been conducting an extramarital affair with Mr. Rourke for months, using marital assets to fund their relationship while attempting to hide her adultery from her husband. He presented our evidence methodically: the second phone, the hotel receipts, Mrs. Granger's photographs. The timeline of Carla's deception, documented in meticulous detail. Furthermore," Morrison continued, "Mr. Rourke was terminated from his employment not because of any actions by my client, but because of legitimate security violations that came to light during a routine compliance review." Nathan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. This was news to him. The plaintiff's request for a restraining order is nothing more than an attempt to gain tactical advantage in divorce proceedings. My client has committed no crimes, made no threats, and engaged in no illegal conduct. The judge looked back and forth between the lawyers, then focused on Carla. "Mrs. Blake, are you currently in a romantic relationship with Mr. Rourke?" Carla's composure cracked slightly. "Your Honor, my relationship status isn't relevant to—" "Answer the question, please." "Yes, Your Honor, but that doesn't justify my husband's behavior." "And Mr. Blake, did you make any threats against Mr. Rourke or your wife?" "No, Your Honor. I never threatened anyone." The judge was quiet for a long moment, reviewing the evidence. "I'm going to deny the request for a restraining order. The evidence doesn't support a finding of credible threat or harassment. However, I'm ordering both parties to maintain the status quo regarding marital assets pending a full hearing on the divorce petition." It was a partial victory, but I wasn't done yet. "Your Honor," I said, standing up, "I have additional evidence I'd like to present." "Mr. Blake, you should let your attorney—" "It's okay, Bill." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence of financial misconduct by the plaintiff." Carla's face went white. Her lawyer started to object, but the judge held up her hand. "What kind of financial misconduct?" "Credit cards opened in my name without my knowledge. Funds transferred from our joint savings account to pay for hotel rooms and gifts for Mr. Rourke. Forged signatures on loan applications." I handed the evidence to the court clerk. Bank statements, credit card applications, hotel receipts, all documenting Carla's use of marital assets to fund her affair. "This is the first I'm hearing of this," Carla's lawyer said, clearly flustered. "Because your client didn't tell you about it," Morrison replied. "She's been systematically looting the marital estate to pay for her extramarital relationship." The judge reviewed the documents with growing disapproval. "Mrs. Blake, did you open credit accounts in your husband's name without his permission?" Carla looked trapped. We were married. I thought I had the right. You thought wrong. And did you use marital funds to pay for hotel rooms where you conducted your affair?" "Your Honor, I can explain." "I don't think you can." The judge's voice was ice cold. "I'm freezing all marital assets pending a full accounting. Mrs. Blake, you're ordered to provide complete financial records going back 1 year. And I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for possible criminal charges." The courtroom erupted. Carla started crying. Nathan looked like he wanted to disappear, and her lawyer frantically shuffled papers. But I wasn't finished. "Your Honor, there's one more thing." I reached into my briefcase again. "I have evidence that Mr. Rourke violated federal security regulations during his employment at Morrison Marketing." I handed over the folder containing Nathan's file transfers, his off-site access logs, and his pattern of sharing confidential client information. Information that, technically, fell under federal trade secret protections. Nathan stood up abruptly. "This is bullshit. You can't prove any of that." "Sit down, Mr. Rourke," the judge ordered. "You're not a party to these proceedings." "But he's destroying my life." "You destroyed your own life when you decided to sleep with a married woman and steal from your employer." The judge turned back to me. "Mr. Blake, I'm impressed by your thoroughness, but this hearing is about temporary orders in your divorce, not Mr. Rourke's employment issues." "I understand, Your Honor, but I wanted the court to understand the full scope of what I've been dealing with. My wife didn't just have an affair. She conspired with her lover to defraud me financially while planning to take everything I've worked for in the divorce." Point taken. The judge looked at Carla with undisguised disgust. "Mrs. Blake, your petition for temporary support is denied. Your request for exclusive use of the marital home is denied. Your request for a restraining order is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering you to return all marital property to the family home within 48 hours. Carla's lawyer tried one last desperate gambit. "Your Honor, my client has nowhere else to go." She should have thought of that before she decided to commit adultery and financial fraud. The gavel came down with the finality of a coffin lid. As we filed out of the courtroom, Nathan cornered me in the hallway. "You think you've won?" he snarled. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." I looked him up and down, taking in his cheap suit and desperate expression. "You're unemployed, unemployable, and about to be investigated for federal crimes. Carla's broke, disgraced, and facing criminal charges. Your affair is over, your careers are over, and your reputations are destroyed. You bastard." "No, Nathan. I'm just better at this than you are." He raised his hand like he was going to hit me, but Bill Morrison stepped between us. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, son." Assault in a courthouse is a felony. Nathan looked around at the crowd of people watching our confrontation, realized he was making a spectacle of himself, and walked away. Carla was waiting by my car in the parking lot, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, please, we can work this out. I made a mistake, but we can fix this." "No, Carla. We can't. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice, a series of choices. And now you get to live with the consequences. But I love you. I never stopped loving you. You love the security I provided. You love the house and the car and the comfortable life. You never loved me. That's not true." "It is true. And you know what? I'm okay with it. Because I finally understand what you really are." I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing in the courthouse parking lot with the wreckage of her life scattered around her feet. 3 months later, Nathan was arrested for violating federal trade secret laws. He pleaded guilty and received 2 years probation and a substantial fine. His career in marketing was over. Carla was charged with identity theft and fraud. She pleaded no contest and received community service and restitution payments. The divorce was finalized with me keeping the house, the cars, and my business. She got nothing. Last I heard, she was working as a waitress at a diner outside town. Nathan moved back in with his parents. I still live in the same house on Maple Street. Mrs. Granger still makes too much soup and knows everyone's business. The rain still falls on my workshop window, but now it sounds peaceful instead of accusatory. Sometimes people ask me if I feel bad about what happened to Carla and Nathan. The answer is no. They made their choices, and I simply made sure those choices had consequences. I learned something important during those months of warfare. I'm not the broken man they thought I was. I'm not weak, boring, or easily dismissed. I'm the man who fought back and won.